Hello, MotoAmerica fans, and welcome to this latest episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. Usually Carruthers does the intro, but for today, Bice is doing the intro. And I'm Sean Bice here in Central Ohio, and my partner is Paul Carruthers out on the West Coast. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
I'm good, and you weren't that much better at it than me, so we've got that in common. We both suck at the intros, but thank you. No,
yeah,
you did a good job. I'm just teasing you. You did great, and it's one of those things. It's like, actually, Richard Varner, who's the big boss at MotoAmerica, told me, he said, never do a bad job well. Like, if you're sweeping the floor, don't do a very good job sweeping the floor, because the boss is just going to keep making you sweep the floor. So you may have done a bad job good or whatever, and you may have to keep the job. But anyways, I'm doing great. It's a nice day out here in Southern California, and things are going good. And we got a lot of comments on our your little story last week about the Schnooks, the
beanie and the toque.
The toque. So I've got a little story. I've got a question for you.
Okay.
Australians, like out in the outback, especially, they wear those big brimmed hats, and they have strings hanging from the brim all around, and there's corks on the end of those. Do you know what that's for?
I didn't know there were corks on them. No, what is that for?
The strings are on the brim of the hat all the way around, and the string hangs down, and then there's corks on the end, and that's when you walk or when you turn your head, the corks, there's movement there, and it keeps the flies away from your face.
I thought it would be if the hat went in the water, it would the corks would cause it to float, but I guess there's not much water.
It's to keep flies and other insects away from your face, because in the outback of Australia, trust me, there's a hell of a lot of flies. So
that's awesome.
That's why Australian cattlemen started wearing those hats like that. So, that was kind of to counter your beanie story from last week. But
that's beautiful. What is that? The hat that they always put up on one side?
Yes, I think.
Why do they do that?
I think that's a style thing.
Okay.
Because Crocodile Dundee had it like that, didn't he?
I think, well, anytime I've seen an Australian, I don't know, it seems like I see him doing that. So, hey, so I've got a story too, speaking not of Australia, but of another, well, let me just say this. I don't want to give it away, but I'm a huge fan of music, but my love of music is inversely proportional to my ability to sing. And it's kind of a problem. My wife says that I'm actually tone deaf, and I probably am. I think I sound good, but I'm horrible. But I wanted to recite a little bit of lyric for you, and tell me if you can kind of name that tune, name the band and or the song. Are you ready, Paul?
Yeah, but I'm really bad at this, but go ahead.
Well, it'll work. Believe me, it'll work. Okay. I hear the drums echoing tonight, but she hears only whispers of some quiet conversation. Want me to keep going? She's coming in 12:30 flight. The moonlit wings reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation.
No idea.
Okay.
You'd have to sing it.
All right. Well, the chorus to the song goes, "I bless the rains down in Africa." And the song's by Toto. It was actually done a couple of years ago. Weezer covered it. So the kids, as I call them, I think they know the song and consider it to be a hit. It was a pretty big hit all over the place. And David Paich actually wrote it because he went to the school he went to. He had most of his teachers did missionary work in Africa. And so he wrote this song about Africa. And that's what he meant by "the moonlit wings reflect the stars that guide me towards salvation." And "I bless the rains down in Africa" is about going on a mission trip. So anyway, it's about Africa. And the reason I bring it up is our guest this week. And Paul, can you talk about the guest before we have him on?
Let's see. What do I know about him? He's a big fella. I don't think he's the biggest guy in the paddock, but he's pretty big compared to most motorcycle racers. But it doesn't seem to stop him from having a ton of success. And 2018 was obviously his most successful season. We're talking about Hayden Gillim, and he won 4 Supersport races. All of his wins except for the first one came in towards the end of the season. His first win actually came in the first race, and I know there was a period of time there when I'm not going to say he didn't think he was going to win again, because I think he knew he was going to win again, but he didn't think it would take so long. His victories were pretty far between, but once he started winning again, he reeled off 3 wins at the end of the season, and he ended up with 15 total podiums and finished second in the championship. And Hayden Gillim is, he's a gentle giant. Let's put it that way, because I'm not sure that there's
good description.
I'm not sure there's a nicer gentleman in our paddock than Hayden. He's polite, he's respectful, and again, he could kill most of us, but I don't think he'd hurt a flea, if that makes sense. In looking back at his MotoAmerica career, it's kind of funny because he started in Supersport and in 2015, and he finished 10th in the championship, 225 points behind, ironically enough, JD Beach, who won the championship this year. In between, he raced Super Stock 1000 and Stock 1000. Just Super Stock 1000, finishing 5th in the championship, and he got some podiums. But my point is that there was a Supersport season that wasn't great, and I mean, we can't compare apples and oranges with what he was riding then and what he was riding now. But from 2015 finishing 10th in the championship in Supersport to 2018 finishing second in the championship behind the same guy and winning 4 races, I think you can see that his career it's just blossomed. And I think everybody in the paddock is happy when Hayden Gillim does well. And this year he did really well. So let's welcome him into the show. And as you say, he's in Africa, and I have no idea why. So it's going to be interesting to chat with him and find out why he's in Africa. And I'm also amazed how well his internet works. So Hayden, welcome to the show, and I hope you're doing well. I know it's 2 a.m. there, and we thank you for joining us at such an odd hour.
Yeah. Thanks for having me come on. I'm smiling. That was such a good intro for me.
Well,
Hayden, do you know that song? Hayden, do you know that song by Toto? Do you know the song Africa?
I know a little bit. I haven't really listened to the full thing. I don't think it's all that great of a song.
Well, it isn't, but I love lyrics, and the fact that they said, "I bless the rains down in Africa." Is that what you're doing over there? Tell us what you're doing.
Yeah. So I'm down here with Nick Wogan, who is a big photographer and videographer and everything, and has helped me the last few years. And we flew down here, got here about 10 hours ago, and we're gonna do some mission stuff, like what you were talking about from the song, and then also we're doing a 6 or 7 day hike up Mount Kilimanjaro. So it's gonna be a bit of a adventure, that's for sure.
Hayden, when you talked about doing this, did you say to somebody, I want to go on a trip and I'd like to do some mission work, and somebody said Kenya, and you said, yeah, sure I can, and you didn't maybe realize they meant Kenya itself? Is that how it went?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god. No, that's not exactly how it went.
Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. Tell us how it went then. How did you get involved in this? Who did you talk to about doing this?
So Nick Wogan has done quite a bit of stuff down here over the last few years. And he came down in 2015, I think, for the first time, doing quite a bit of mission stuff, and then in 2016 came and did a documentary with one of the tribes down here, and it's on Amazon if you guys want to go check it out. It's called The Last Maasai. And so I saw it once I started working with him in 2016, and I was just blown away by how amazing it was, and just how different it is than anything I've ever got to see or do. And so I told him, I was like, hey man, if you ever need anybody to help you with another video or or anything like that. I don't have to do anything. I can just hold a boomstick or something if you want. And so we kind of talked about it. It got dropped for a while, and then I don't know. I think we started talking about it again in October, and it all of a sudden just came up and came about so fast, and we got plane tickets within a month, and then his friend over here, Mike Hyodo, who we're staying with right now, he was going to go hike Mount Kilimanjaro, and Nick called me. He's like, "Hey, how would you feel about doing this?" And I was like, "Is that really a question?" So it kind of all came about kind of last second, and had to make quite a few arrangements really quick, and it's been a really fun trip. We had a layover in Dubai for 15 hours, so I got to walk around there, and then just going from the two different places, Dubai and then straight into Nairobi, Kenya, just two different worlds, and it's opened my eyes quite a bit already, and I've only been here for 10 hours. So I'm really looking forward to it and seeing what good we can do. And then hiking up a mountain is just cherry on top.
All right, what are you doing first, Hayden? Are you going to climb Kilimanjaro and then do the mission stuff, or what order are you doing things in?
So we're here for, I think, so today we've got some stuff planned to do around Nairobi. We're going to go do a little hike up this other little dormant volcano to kind of just explore a little bit. I think we're going to meet with one of the pastors that they know down here from one of the tribes, and I'm not quite sure exactly what we're doing today and tomorrow, but tomorrow night we fly to Moshi in Tanzania at the base of the mountain, and then we're getting everything prepared, and then we're hiking the mountain, and then coming back here for I think a week and a half after that, and then that's when we're really gonna get into the thick of it.
Wow. Hayden, so let me read one quick. I got to read another little lyric from this song. It goes, I know that I must do what's right, as sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. So, hey, how about that? That puts you right in the mood, right? Kilimanjaro is right in the song.
I tell you what, I might have to go listen to the song now.
Yeah, you got to hear all of it. It's all about you.
Hey, Sean, what night of the week is it that you do karaoke over there?
Oh no, I don't go anywhere near karaoke. I could recite poetry, but I could go in a coffee shop and do some of that hip poetry, but I'm not going to ever sing. So
yeah, you need open mic night where they just want poetry reading.
Yeah, exactly. Some of that beat poetry or something. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's cool. I like this song. It's kind of goofy, but like I say, it does have a lot of things that reference you. But we picture you. This is bad, Hayden. So tell us what your situation is. We said, oh man, they get Wi-Fi in grass huts. Are you in fact in a grass hut, or are you in a house? What's it like over there?
No, so we're staying with Nick's friend Mike and his family. They have a really nice apartment in I think they said we're in northern Nairobi, and it's a gated little community, and so where we are is pretty nice. There's definitely some not so nice places here, so it'll be interesting to see the contrast between where we are, where we're going to be, and all that. So they have a fairly large place because they have people coming over here from the United States all the time doing mission work, and they've lived here for I think 13 or 14 years. Doing mission work, so they found their calling over here, and so it's really cool to be able to be a part of it.
Will you get to go out and see any wildlife at all? I mean, obviously it's not like a jungle there. I understand that, but are they going to take you places where you might be able to see some, I don't know, lions or giraffes or elephants or anything?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what we're going to do today. Which is tomorrow for you guys.
Right.
we're gonna go out there. Whenever we go hiking, I think we're going to one of the national parks down here, and they said we'll be able to see zebra and giraffes and everything. So I think we're going to go to an island that has a big lake around it or something, and there's like hundreds and hundreds of hippos, and so it'll be cool. It'll be really interesting. I think I've got to see a giraffe, but I don't think I've ever really got to see a zebra or a hippo or anything like that. So it's man, I'm just super pumped about it.
So cool. It's been a while, but I did get to visit. I've never been to Africa, but I did get to go to where you stopped by on the first part of your trip, and that was to Dubai. It's funny because when I was in Dubai, I'm like, damn, this looks a lot like Owensboro.
Yes.
Actually, when I saw the photos, I think you did a little video on your Instagram from Dubai, and I was like, man, I bet that seems a lot different than home to Hayden. But it's amazing there how like everything looks like it was built, this morning, right?
Oh my, it's so insane there. We just walked around for maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours and went and had dinner and went to the mall. And the mall there is the size of Owensboro. It's it's insane. And then seeing the world's largest tower and like seeing all the Rolls Royces and Bentleys and Ferraris and Lamborghinis driving around. I was a little upset I didn't get to see a gold-plated one, but it was okay. I could definitely tell that there's a lot of money flowing around that place.
Yeah, it's funny. I think the worst car you ever see there is like a really nice Lexus or something, and that's like it's rare. I've never been to a place where there's so much money in one spot.
Oh yeah, it's insane. I think every single Uber driver has a Lexus, so. That was definitely the most average car there. And then, I didn't get to see it much during the daylight, but until we flew out yesterday morning, and I looked out the window of the hotel, and a half a mile away, I could see on the river these massive 200-300 foot yachts, and I was just like, man, what it must be like. So that was definitely an experience, and everybody was super nice over there, so that was a big surprise also. With that much money in America, people aren't always the nicest, so it was really cool.
We need to get some of those guys to come over and sponsor some teams or sponsor MotoAmerica for us if they've got that much wretched excess, wouldn't you say?
No kidding. That's for sure. Just, sell one of your yachts. You could fund a whole race team for a few years.
Right. They could fund a race team with the change in the sofa.
Yeah, that's no kidding.
That's right. Hey, I've got a question for you. It's something I've seen from time to time during the flat track season. People will comment on the fact that Sammy Halbert runs the number 69, and they in out of respect and love for Nicky, they'll get on him about that number ought to be retired, and of course they don't understand the fact that Sammy's own brother Jethro had that plate number and is no longer with us either. I'd like you to explain to us or to our audience why your first name is Hayden and why you run the number 69. I mean, what's your connection to the whole thing?
So my grandpa is brothers with Earl Hayden. So my mom is her uncle is Earl, and Earl is my great uncle, and Nicky and Tommy and Roger and Kathleen, and they're my second cousins. So, so I got the name Hayden from my mom's side of the family, and then I run 69 whenever we were little. Whenever me and my older brother and my younger brother, whenever we got our first motorcycles from Uncle Earl and my pepaw Marty, we they gave us 22, 69, and 95 in relation to Tommy being the oldest. So my older brother got 22. I got 69 because Nikki was kind of the middle child. And my younger brother, Ethan, got 95 because of Roger. So that's how I ended up running 69. And then whenever JD moved and started living with us after my little brother passed away, he started running 95 for him in honor of him. So that's how I run the number. And I know a lot of people comment on my stuff quite a bit about running number 69 and how I shouldn't. And I've gotten into a few arguments about it. And yeah, so it's funny that you say that about Sammy, kind of people telling him that it should be retired, but he runs it out of respect for his brother who passed away. And yeah, so it's I understand where people come from, but whenever they say that stuff, but obviously if you don't look into the sport well enough or watch the sport enough to know that stuff, that side of it, then you shouldn't be commenting on our stuff anyways.
Right. I actually didn't know with you. I wasn't sure that it was a situation where you would have that. I mean, I brought up Sammy because I knew it was because of Jethro. It really has nothing to do with the Haydens, but for my gosh, your first name is Hayden. So people should realize that. Yeah. But I didn't know that you got into discussions about that. I just wanted you to be able to kind of talk to people about it who may not know. And I figured most people did, but I guess not. So no, it's a great tribute, no doubt. What was JD's number before he switched to 95? I don't even know.
He ran 73 because his dad was number 73. And I think whenever he went to do Rookies Cup, he couldn't run 73 or something, and he ended up running 59 because I don't think he was able to get 95 either. And then once he started racing flat track with number 95, and I don't honestly I don't even know how exactly it started or what kept it going, but it's been such a long time. It's been I think over 13 or 10 years or something like that since he's been running it, and so such a long time ago. Now it just is normal. So it's
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to ask him later and make sure the story was right.
Make sure you let us know, because I think Sean will try to find a song that has lyrics that the numbers are in there like that, and then he can go ahead and tell us that next week, and then we can learn even more about numbers. So by all means, let's continue this trend of learning, because my brain isn't full enough yet.
We all need to learn. I'm Hayden. So this is the off season, but you're always training. Climbing up Mount Kilimanjaro is certainly training for you. You're going to be away from, it seems like you do a lot of riding with RiCKdiculous out at the school. You must have had to fit this in terms of, you had to take a break from riding, obviously, to do this trip. I guess it's great to sort of recharge your batteries a little bit. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm just super, I'm just blown away that I get this opportunity to come over here. Not a whole lot of people do, and actually I didn't have to take any time off from RiCKdiculous. They take all of January off and all of December off. So once I get back, I think we have a camp on the 5th of February. So it'll kickstart and get going again as soon as I get back. But I'm I don't know, in between races I always try and recharge, and I don't ride as much as a lot of people in the paddock and all that, even though we have tracks at our houses and all that. I just, sometimes for me, being on the bike every single day or every few days, it really burns me out. And I love the sport so much that I have such a competitive nature that whenever I am riding, it's always competitive. And so whenever JD and Nick and Jake and Roger and all them are always riding back home, sometimes I have to get away from them and kind of just do my own thing because I get so competitive. And if I'm not fast enough or faster than them, it really hurts my ego, and I don't want to ride for a while. So so this is a really cool trip. Yeah. So this is a really cool trip. I'm gonna get to recharge and hiking up the mountain up to 19,000 feet is going to be definitely a test. And I'm really looking forward to it, and then also looking forward to getting back home and get back to riding.
Well, Hayden, I quoted those things early when I was introducing you, but there's a huge difference between the Hayden Gillim of 2015 and the Hayden Gillim of 2019. What has changed? What have you made big changes, or is it just a matter of riding more and getting better, or is there stuff that we don't know about on the side that you've changed to make the jump from being 10th in the championship to being second in the championship?
Yeah. I mean, I've made quite a few lifestyle changes since 2015. I think I turned 21 in 2015, so that had a big effect on it. I drank a lot, and in 2016 and 2017, I drank a lot and was on the road by myself and just wasn't training very much and wasn't eating right. So this last year, getting onto a really good team with RiCKdiculous and having all their support, I made the changes that I needed to make sure that I got to the front and was able to stay there. And so I stopped drinking and started eating right and started training a lot more and then working with the RiCKdiculous guys, working with Ken Hill. I've changed my riding has changed quite a bit. It doesn't look like it on camera all that much, unless you know what you're looking for. And I mean, just from 2017 to 2018 in my riding, it was a huge change. And then plus those other changes away from the track and away from the bike that I made had a big effect on it. And then 2015, 2016, 2017, I didn't have the greatest of years. And I think not being on the best bike, kind of running my own program with a small budget and doing everything myself, it definitely relit the fire underneath of me and made me want to get back to the front and maybe want to be a contender for a championship. And I got to keep that going and working all the time on my riding and training and all that with JD and Roger and Jake and Nick and all those guys back home. It's a huge help. And I mean, it's crazy how much my life has changed over the last few years to get me to where I am.
Well, congratulations, because it's definitely worked.
Hey, thanks a lot.
I think as excited as we all are, and I know you are too, or I'm sure that you are, that JD got that Superbike ride, and you're probably delighted about that and a little bit relieved that he's not still in Supersport, not just because of the competition, but because of the dynamic between the two of you guys being so close. It's got to be interesting for you. You probably were as excited as JD about it, possibly, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's worked his butt off the last 5 or 6 years that he's been with that he was on the Graves R6, and and then he kind of there just wasn't anywhere for him to go, no teams or anything for him to hop onto a Superbike. So it was really amazing for Essence and to jump on board with Attack and make that whole program happen. It was yeah, we were all really happy back home for him, and just to seeing him ride on the R1, the first day or so, he definitely looked a little uncomfortable. It was a lot different, all the power and everything. But now, whenever I see him ride the thing, he looks so good. And I mean, it's definitely going to be a learning curve. But he's been on 1,000 before. He's been on a super bike with attack. Definitely, I don't know if it was necessarily the same performing equipment as what he's got now. The Kawasaki was a tough bike to ride and to develop back then, and the R1 is so good. So it'll be really cool to see in that class, man. I tell you what, is so stacked. I mean, there's 10 guys every weekend that can win a race. So it's really cool to see, and I'm thinking he's going to do really well and surprise a few people. And yeah, I mean, I was excited to see him leave the class. Opened it up a little bit for me, but I definitely wanted to try and kick his butt a little bit more this season. But I mean, now we got Nick McFadden's on the team now, and I think he's going to do really well. He the team is definitely going to help him a lot as far as his riding goes, and helping him have the right mindset towards everything. So it'll be cool to see how he progresses. And I know he's got the speed. I mean, you can see just from a few of the races this year or this last year that, he was right on my tail for the first 5 or 6 laps. And so it'll be interesting to see. And then we got PJ coming into the series again. So that's going to be really cool to see. He's a world-class rider. So to be able to see where we stack up against him will be really good for us, and then to show everybody overseas that we're not a bunch of pushovers over here.
Have you ever raced against PJ either road racing or flat track, Hayden?
It's been a long time. Growing up on 65s and 85s and 50s back in the day at the amateur nationals and everything. I got to race PJ quite a bit, and he always whooped my butt back then. So hopefully I can repay the favor this year.
It's funny you say about how much you've progressed and changed from a few years ago to now. I mean, you talk about JD too. You think about JD when he had that superbike ride with the tack on that Kawasaki versus now. He's a totally different JD Beach, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. And he's worked his butt off the last however many years it's been, 6 years or whatever. And living with him, living across the hall from him, seeing how he does everything and how he goes about his life. And, whenever he's sitting still, it's weird for him. He feels if he doesn't do something productive all day. Yeah. If he doesn't do something productive all day long, he doesn't feel like he had a productive day. So it's pretty crazy to see how he trains and how he goes about his life and his eating and everything is just, it's crazy. And he definitely is on the far end of the spectrum as far as his focus and dedication to the sport. He's as dedicated as anybody I've ever seen. So it's really cool to live with that and see that, and it helps motivate me to be the same way. But it's like I said, if I went to that extreme as what he does, I would probably hate racing. So I have to tone it down a little bit from where he's at. But he definitely, his work ethic and everything definitely rubs off on me a little bit, and I'm lucky for that.
I mean, it does, Hayden, but at the same time, I love the fact that you're your own man. You're not, I guess, intimidated by his crazy work ethic, which works for him. But to your point, you seem to be comfortable with the fact that you know your pace and what you have to do. You don't seem to feel like, you're not doing as much work as JD is, because you certainly probably are, I would say, or maybe, you just don't want to go that far, I guess. JD's even told us that he probably overdoes it sometimes, and I'm sure you've seen it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that's one thing that I'm definitely afraid of, is just overtraining myself. And I've seen JD where he's been sick before from just going way too far, and it's not good. He's definitely gotten a lot better since that time. Not so long ago, that was a few years back, whenever he was pretty sick for a while, just because he was overtraining and then not eating enough. And he's a small guy. He's a little guy. He was, for him being at, I think 130 pounds is like a really good weight for him. And at one point he was down into the low 120s, and he doesn't have a whole lot of fat on his body. And to see him even drop that much weight was so crazy. But you could just tell that the energy wasn't there. And I know for me, it's crazy, because the first week after the season was over, I stopped working out and went on a big binge as far as eating just cookies and everything. And for me, like, my body, whenever I do that, I blow up. I went from 170 pounds to 185 within a matter of a week. And so I definitely have to work a lot to get all the weight back off, to get down just to even the high 160s. And it's pretty tough for me. But having him in the house and being able to kind of have him helping me is a lot better for me as far as eating habits and working out and stuff. It is good for us to push each other. And, in a lot of aspects, I need to be a little bit more like him, and just in the laid back sense of everything. Sometimes he does have to take a look and just be like, all right, I gotta chill out a little bit.
Hayden, real quick, if this plays out the way I'm sure you want it to, and probably the way a lot of people want it to, you would end up being the 2019 Supersport champion. Is your goal from that to, obviously, I mean, I can picture you on a really good superbike. Is that the goal?
Yeah, that's always the goal. And 2016, 2017, I got to race against the superbikes and on the 1000, and to be a part of that class, even though I wasn't technically on a superbike, to be a part of that class and see how fast everybody is, and see how each and every session everybody's raising the level of competition. That's definitely where I want to be. And I think I've learned a lot the last few years, and I would love to make the step up to superbike. So that's definitely where everybody that is here in America wants to be. Everybody wants to be on the superbike and fighting for those wins in that class. Because then, if you can win in that class, you can win just about anywhere. So it's that's definitely where everybody here wants to be. And hopefully after this season, if it's a good year for me, we can make that happen. But there's a long way till the end of the season. So we even got a long way till the first race. So it'll be interesting to see how everything folds out. And I'm feeling really confident coming into the season. Last year was a little bit of an unknown for me, going back to the 600, and then to be able to come out the first test like I did, and feeling as good as I did on the bike. It was really good. We had a little bit of a rough stretch in the middle, or the first quarter of the season, and we've learned a lot since then. Have the bike in a really good spot, and it's gonna be a really good year.
Well, you're on a really good team, Hayden. I mean, RiCKdiculous Racing is really a premier team. And I mean, I'm talking to Kelly Reese, and I spent a little time talking to Adam Bronfman too. And it sounds like their progression is that they plan to, at some point, move up to the superbike class. And if you are still with that team, it seems like you guys might maybe progress at the same time into that. I imagine as a team, you've talked about that a little bit. But is that true?
Yeah, that's where they want to go. I know, talking at the beginning of last season, their hopes were to after a few years, hopefully have 2 Superbikes. They wanted to be able to get 2 600 riders. They wanted to be able to get 2 Junior Cup riders. So hopefully that's still in the plans, and I'm really hoping that it's able to work out. And I think after this season, we'll be able to see kind of where they're wanting to go with it, and see, because I mean it is a lot of money to run a Superbike program, and unless the sponsors can jump on board, I'm not sure if they want to do it. So we'll have to see. Only time can tell whenever it comes to that stuff. But they definitely want to get to that point. They want to be at the front of every single class in the MotoAmerica series.
One of the other things I wanted to ask you about is it's become pretty fashionable to be a road racer and a flat tracker at the same time. The guy across the hall from you, of course, sounds like PJ Jacobs is going to do it. You've done it. You did it quite a fair amount last year on the Indian. What's your plan this year? Are you going to do some flat track as well?
I definitely want to. I'm still working on that stuff. I loved riding the Indian in the twins class this year. It was so amazing, and it was my first time racing a twin, and it was just eye opening. And I didn't like riding my 450 after riding those things. So it's I definitely want to get back on them, and I had so much fun doing those events, and I came in kind of nobody really knew what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. And then my first race, I was fighting for a podium, even though I didn't quite have the speed as everybody else. I got pretty tired. That's a big old bike to be jumping around and doing a bunch of different stuff with. So it was so much fun, and doing it on my own. I didn't quite have the greatest setup. I don't think, but John Cornwell, Corn Dog from Olin's, was helping me out with everything. He was kind of like kind of crew chiefing, but then kind of not. So it was so much fun, and to see JD go and do as many races as he possibly can, and then to see PJ come over and hop back into the series. It'll be really cool to see how they do, and I'm hoping I can get out there and dice it up with them and battle with them. And if I was able to do that, that'd be a pretty cool story if me and PJ were battling in the road races and then battling on the flat track too. So we'll see, but hopefully I can make something work out and do as much racing as I can this year. But only time will tell.
I've got a question for you, and if you don't answer it correctly, I'm just going to have it edited out. But which of those is more difficult? Because again, it seems like our guys can go. I mean, it's kind of apples and oranges, because a lot of our guys grew up riding dirt trackers, so it's not a real fair comparison. But it seems like we can go to their series and do well, but then I think it's whenever they've tried to do the same, it doesn't work out so well. Does that mean that road racing's harder, or is it just because they don't have the experience?
It's tough to say. I think that's a tough question. They're both really hard. The road racing side of things is the races are definitely a lot longer, and you gotta have a whole lot of just natural ability, and then plus we've been working. Most of us in the paddock have been working at it for so long that it's second nature, and it's the same thing with the flat track guys. They've been doing it for so long that they don't know anything else, and to kind of we all struggled at the beginning whenever we hopped to road racing. So it's hard to say, because I know road racers that have tried to go flat tracking or have started flat tracking. It's really tough for them, and so I think it's kind of equally hard, equally difficult. There's definitely a lot more of a setup that you need for as far as road racing to really have the speed. And I know it's the same way for the twins. The 450s, you can ride around a whole lot of things. But yeah, that's such a tough question. But they're both really hard in their own right, and to see as many people get into flat track as they have in the last few years is really cool. But then to see a bunch of flat trackers try and go road racing is also really cool. So yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I definitely think whenever a road racer goes to flat track, they expect it to be a little bit easier than what it is, and vice versa from flat track to road racing.
Well, in typical Hayden Gillim fashion, you just were able to do that without pissing anybody off. So good job.
Yeah. I'm really good at talking my way out of things.
Yeah, well, you have to do it enough, then you get good at it.
Yeah.
That question that you had was a great question, Paul, and it brought up something else I wanted to ask Hayden. When we watch JD road race, you can tell he's a flat tracker. He's all over the bike, and it has something to do with his size, I'm sure. But I know from having worked on his team in the past that he's pretty hard on the rear brake, or he uses the rear brake a lot. Let me say that. But when you road race, you don't look like you are hanging it out as much. You seem to be more in line with the bike. Is that true, or are you smoother on the bike than JD is? You don't seem to have a flat track style in a road racer, or I could be wrong. What's your assessment of that?
I don't know. Our riding styles are definitely separate ends of the spectrum. He definitely likes to back it in and is definitely all over the place. But I think he's able to do that because of his size, because he's, smaller on the bike. The movements that he does doesn't affect the bike as much. And, little movements for me really upset the bike. My legs are a little bit bigger than his, and my body's a little bit bigger than his. And so whenever I plop down on the seat, the whole bike wants to do something crazy. And whenever I push on the pegs, it's definitely, the bike definitely feels it. I don't think most of the bikes like me on them. So I think if I was all over the place and kind of crazy, it would be tough for me to do as well. And yeah, because that's one thing. I don't use the rear brake that much. I still use it quite a bit, but he definitely likes his rear brake. And I don't know. I'm not sure why it's like that. I know a lot of people that have done flat track and then rose up through the ranks of road racing too. They definitely like the bike out sideways a little bit more, but even flat tracking, I've never been really all that good at the tracks where you have to be out of control and you're kind of all over the place and on the gas. And so I think it might just be a little bit of me. Maybe I'm scared. Must be just scared of the bike hurting me.
Well, scared or not, it works for you. That's for sure. I mean, your style is certainly doing the right thing.
But I've got a suggestion that I think Hayden's going to be really happy with. And I think we're going to end this show here pretty quick. It's almost 3 a.m. where he is. So I'm going to let you wrap it up, Sean, since you did such a wonderful job with the intro. And let's see how you do with the close. If you want to work some song lyrics into it or some numerology or whatever you want to do, you feel free. I want to thank you, Hayden, for joining us. Be safe on the rest of your trip. I know you're doing something that you're looking forward to and you're excited about, and I'm excited about it for you. So enjoy that trip and the rest of your time there, and we'll talk when you get back.
Oh yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for having me on, and I've been listening to y'all's shows here lately, and I was pumped to get to be asked to be on here. So thanks a lot, and I'll let you guys know how Africa goes.
Yeah, please do. And I'll hand this off to Sean for a brilliant close.
Big thanks to Hayden Gillim for joining us on this episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. And I also thank my partner, Paul Carruthers, out on the West Coast. This was a good episode, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Please keep listening on your favorite podcast channels, and we'll keep bringing these to you in the coming weeks and months ahead. Thanks, everybody.